Welcome to the 2025 Canadian Federal Election Candidates Forum for the riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. I'm David Van Deventer, President of the Cowichan Chamber of Commerce and publisher of the Cowichan Valley Citizen. On behalf of the Chamber, thank you for watching. This forum is being recorded in the studio and shared with voters across the region. We come to you today from the traditional and unceded territory of the Penelakut peoples, Hulkaminam speakers, and we're very thankful and very grateful to be able to do so. The Cowichan Chamber of Commerce is a non-partisan, community-focused organization. We serve as a voice for local business, but our work goes beyond advocacy. We aim to strengthen our region's economic, social, and civic fabric by encouraging collaboration, dialogue, and informed engagement. That's what tonight is all about. I'm pleased to introduce the candidates joining us in alphabetical order by last name. Kathleen Code, representing the Green Party of Canada. Blair Herbert, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. Alistair MacGregor, representing the NDP and the incumbent Member of Parliament for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. We also extended an invitation to the Conservative Party candidate, Jeff Kibble, who has declined to participate. This election comes at a time of uncertainty and transition across our region and country. People are feeling the weight of rising costs, housing pressure, safety concerns, and rapid change. It's more important than ever that we hear directly from those who want to lead us through it. This forum is shaped around 5 major themes that have emerged from conversations within our community and across the country. Affordability and the cost of living, which continues to challenge households, entrepreneurs, and entire sectors. Energy and climate, where the way we build, power, and protect our communities will define the decades ahead. Leadership in a crisis, because resilience is built before the storm, not after. Public safety and security, both on our streets and in our digital lives. And tariffs and threats to Canada, which directly impact Cowichan-based industries like agriculture, forestry, and manufacturing. The questions posed were submitted by members of the public and our business community, with contributions from our partners at the WestShore Chamber of Commerce and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. We thank them for helping to shape a meaningful discussion. We hope this forum helps you learn more, not just about the party platforms, but about the individuals who want to represent you. We look forward to a respectful and engaging conversation. Thank you again for joining us. Let's begin.
All right, welcome. So we were going to start with a 3 minutes opener from all of you. And we have drawn straws to see who goes first. And the first one is going to go is the Liberal Party representative, Blair Herbert. We'll then go on to Kathleen Code of the Green Party, and then Alistair MacGregor of the NDP. So 3 minutes to open. After we start with questions, you'll have 1 minute to answer each question, and everyone will answer the same question. I will cut you off if you go over time, and we'll try to stay as well on time as we can. So let's open with some openers, please. Mr. Blair Herbert.
Well, thank you, Phil. First of all, I would just like to welcome everybody to this broadcast. I guess this is a little bit different than the way we have usually done things. But firstly, I would like to thank the Cowichan Chamber, as well as the WestShore Chamber and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board for hosting this event. I have been a chamber member for probably 18 years. Sonia would know better than I would, but I know I've been on the island for 18 years, and I joined the chamber shortly after moving here. I've seen the growth of its membership and the impact under Sonia's leadership, and I want to give a hats off to the chamber and especially to Sonia. It's a great resource for the business community. I was able to attend the chamber Black Tie Awards last weekend, and it was an amazing event, and congratulations to all the winners. Because we are less than 2 weeks away from the election, I'm going to assume that everyone has some knowledge of the platforms and are down to that final thinking on making a choice. So I'm going to take the opportunity to introduce, I'm going to take the opportunity of this introduction to share why me, why now. I am not a career politician. And I think that that is an asset, actually. And that's exactly why I am the best person to serve as your MP. I can better relate to the experiences of the people in the riding because I live them with you. I make business decisions that impact people's lives and livelihood. I work well under pressure. I am not insulated from tough economic times. Rather, I lose sleep over them as well. During the early years, or the first part of COVID, for example, I had to close my business. It ended up being for about a 3-month period of time. But of course, I didn't know that when I was locking the door for the last time and leaving the parking lot. It was very, very stressful. My business and leadership skills are completely transferable and valuable in representing this riding. Mark Carney is the most qualified federal leader I have seen in my lifetime. You know, we often wonder why good people don't get into politics, and then he came along at a time when we need his skills and experience more than ever. He is articulate, intelligent, and calm under pressure. He's not full of slogans, rather he has substance, and it is Mark Carney that I want on this side of the border, dealing with the other side of the border. I want to address the elephant in the room briefly, or maybe more aptly, the elephant not in the room. Pierre Poilievre has told his Conservative candidates not to respond to all candidates' meetings or talk to the media. The message that they are sending, I think, is that we don't want to listen to you now, and we don't want to listen to you when we go to Ottawa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. I'd now like to move to the Green Party representative, Kathleen Code. Please.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Phil, for that. As mentioned, I'm Kathleen Code with the Green Party, and I'm very honored to be here today, and I do thank the Duncan Chamber of Commerce for arranging this very special event for us. Public exposure is really important, very difficult in these times, but we have so much to talk about. I'm pleased to announce that as of today, the Green Party platform is now available on our website. Go to Green Party of Canada, and you'll see there our 2025 election platform. We also have costings of some of our initiatives on the Parliamentary Budget Office website. If you go there, you'll see that we're the only party that has some costed initiatives that we've been working with through the Parliamentary Budget Office. Going back to me, I was born and raised in Victoria. I moved up here to Cobble Hill in 2012, anticipating my retirement. I put in big veggie gardens and a heritage apple orchard and greenhouses, and then went on to discover that retirement is entirely a myth, and that I was free to work full-time as a volunteer for no pay at all. So but it was good work. It was satisfying work, and so I've always been involved in community activities from the beginning of my adult life, really. As a single mom, even in Victoria, I volunteered for the Single Parent Resource Center, volunteered as communications director for Kool-Aid Society. I am now the chair of the Ecoforestry Institute Society. We hold wildwood in trust for the people of BC, and this year we're celebrating 80 years of harvesting selectively at wildwood, and we still have an intact forest. That's important to remember. I'm also a member of the Fairy Creek movement, joining tens of thousands of people across BC and the world to try and save old growth and to learn more about Indigenous rights, title, and sovereignty. These things are really important to us as a community, and really I'm impressed by the community strength and resolve then around these issues. I'm here with a great depth of experience and knowledge and education. I have a master's in environment and management. And after 21 years of service with the BC government, I retired as an economic development policy analyst, helping rural communities diversify their economies, which I think is obviously still a very relevant topic. So I do urge you to consider me and to give me your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen Code of the Green Party. I'm now going to move to Alistair MacGregor of the NDP. Alistair, go ahead, please.
by saying thank you. First of all, thank you to the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce. I am also a member, and we know that you do great work in representing your members and are just such a dominant force in this community. I've spent many years working with the Chamber on various initiatives, and it's always great to see how involved they are. I also want to say thank you to the people of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford for the trust that you have placed on my shoulders, starting in 2015 and again in 2019 and in 2021. I want you to know that that trust has always weighed heavily on my shoulders. Every day that I work in Ottawa, I'm always mindful of the people and the place that I represent. You know, I've made my home in the Cowichan Valley for 35 years now. It's very much a part of me, and I'm incredibly proud to be raising my family here on a small farming property. And I've always taken inspiration from the people and from the place for all of the work that I've done on your behalf in Ottawa. You know, whether it's serving on the Agriculture Committee, the various bills that I've sponsored, the motions, the speeches I give in the House of Commons, the ways I press ministers to make sure that they're investing meaningfully in our community, it's all been because of the people and the place. I think if you look at my track record as your Member of Parliament, you can see a dedicated person who has always thought of the people that I represent. I've always been concerned about the welfare of the folks in this riding, whether it's all the way down in Langford or up to Chemainus and everywhere in between. It's a big, beautiful riding. It covers about 4,700 square kilometers. And I think as a people of this place, we care deeply about our environment, and it really is a formative place. I think if you look at the track record of the NDP caucus, especially over this last Parliament, it's quite amazing what a small but determined caucus of individuals can do in Ottawa. It was through our efforts that we now have the first ever dental care plan, that we have a national pharmacare framework. And I just wanted to put that out there because I think we've always prided ourselves as a caucus in punching above our weight. I like to compare myself to the backbenchers in both the Liberals and the Conservative Party. And I think if you see the work ethic and the things that I've been able to achieve, I have a track record which demonstrates how hard I've been able to work for you. And you know, during this campaign, when I have been out door knocking and speaking to folks in all of our communities, I know there's a lot of anxiety out there with what's going on with the Trump presidency, but underneath that anxiety is also a growing resolve. A resolve to look out for one another, to support our workers, to support our communities. And I think as Canadians, we can do that very easily. One thing I'm able to offer to the folks of Cowichan, Malahat, and Langford is this. With me and with these uncertain times, you get an experienced person who knows how to do the job, has an office around him, a team around him, and I can get to work hitting the ground running on day one. On April 28th, I hope you will place your trust on my shoulders again, and I look forward to being able to serve you in the next Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for the purpose of this recording, we're going to go alphabetical and then back again. So for example, we'll have Alistair MacGregor start, Blair Herbert will be second, Kathleen Code will be third, then Kathleen Code will be third, Blair Herbert will be second, Alistair MacGregor will be third again, and back and forth we'll go. So, the first question, in affordability and the cost of living. From our partner, WestShore Chamber of Commerce. Many things from costs to antisocial behavior and now increased uncertainty are making it harder and harder for businesses to just survive, never mind thrive. If elected, how will you respond to this challenge? Sorry? How long? Oh, 1 minute, sorry, for each of the speakers. My bad. Oh.
Are we just waiting till...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. I just first want to recognize that, you know, small businesses really are the heart of so many of our communities. And I think as a federal MP, there's a number of things I can do. So let's start with the uncertain business environment. One of the things I would like to commit to is lowering the small business tax rate, but also capping credit card merchant fees so that every time a transaction is happening in your store, you're not paying the price for it. I have seen a lot of tax returns of small businesses because some of them need help with the CRA, and I know how tight those margins are. I know owners are regularly paying their staff and taking a little bit left over at the end of the day. In terms of public safety concerns, I would really like to make sure that our CMP are equipped with dedicated mental health support teams. I think a lot of people in our communities, it's obvious they are not getting the help they need, and we need a major rethink and a primary focus from the federal government to finally deal with this issue.
Thank you very much. I'll now move to Blair Herbert, please.
Thank you for that question. The great thing about small businesses is that they seem to be able to roll with the punches. The problem is that we have had a series of punches here for the last five, 6 years. We have the opioid crisis, which everybody deals with in our area, or in Cowichan, as well as down in Langford. We've had COVID for 3 or 4 years, and now we have Trump, and it's sort of, when does this end? We're doing our best to sort of manage our way through those things. One of the big things is to try to make some progress on the opioid crisis, which, some credit to the provincial government. They seem to have had a pretty good quarter last time, and hopefully that continues. But I think that we need to get some things in place, like treatment for opioid addicts, and in order to be able to get them off of that lifestyle and reduce that problem.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the Green Party's Kathleen Code.
Yes, thank you for that. The Greens are extremely concerned about affordability these days, and one of our initiatives is the tax cut for everybody earning $40,000 and under. Your first $40,000 will be tax-free. I think this allows you enough money to live plus disposable income to spend with your local businesses and providers. Another one is the Federal Strategic Reserve, where the government would buy up some of our own resources, aluminum, steel, and lumber, ensuring that our businesses, our factories and sawmills are kept busy despite the tariffs. And we would be using these resources then to build homes for Canadians across the country. Public safety, obviously the opioid crisis is of great concern, and we would do wraparound.
Thank you. You're at time. Sorry.
Thank you.
So we will stay with Kathleen Code for the next question, and then we'll move back. From the public, for supporting small businesses and local economies, how will you support small business owners facing red tape, rising costs, and challenges competing with larger corporations and online platforms like Amazon? Kathleen Code, please.
So small businesses, we need to make sure that that they have an easier time of it in terms of regulations, smaller taxes, that they are encouraged to do business, especially the brick and mortar operators who find it more expensive, of course, to run those operations. We would give tax breaks to them, and also ensure then that Canadian citizens have more accessible and disposable income so that they can spend funds with their local providers and suppliers. I'm really heartened to see that Canadians have embraced the shop locally mantra and are busy supporting Canadian small businesses across the country. I think this is the start of a really important initiative, and one that certainly the Green Party can support wholeheartedly.
Thank you very much. Next to Blair Herbert, please.
Sure, thanks for that question. Small businesses, again, need to be able to roll with what is happening in the economy at any given time. I think what the government's position is in that is that they should try and stay out of the way as much as they can. It seems every time that the government tries to fix a problem somewhere, it causes a problem somewhere else. And I think if we can sort of back up on regulation, there's lots of good regulations, but there's some that are excessive. And it's to try to keep the costs down. Even local taxes here seem to be continuing to increase every year by fairly large amounts. Of course, the federal government doesn't have much to do with that, but it is all part of what small business owners put up with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to the NDP party, Alistair, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. So I think in addition to both the capping the credit card merchant fees and lowering the small business tax rate, something I would like to see too is, when you mentioned in the preamble of your question about the competition from large corporations, Canada in so many of our economic sectors is dominated by a handful of corporations, and they've often swallowed up their competitors to get even bigger. So we have a real problem in this country with competition. So I would like to see the Competition Bureau of Canada get more resources, get more legislative powers to make sure that they're not unfairly competing with our small businesses. I also think that, in this time of economic uncertainty with the United States, the best thing the federal government can do is help small businesses diversify their market opportunities with a Buy Canadian, Build Canadian plan, help them build resilience in our local economies as well in finding those new products and markets.
Thank you very much. We'll stay with Alistair MacGregor for the next question. Funding and recognition for business support organizations. Local nonprofits and charities play a vital role during economic downturns by providing essential services. What is your advocacy strategy to ensure these organizations receive stable and sustainable federal funding to support their work in our communities?
Thank you for that great question. I have a lot of experience with this actually, and one program comes to mind is the Federal Canada Summer Jobs Program. It's a vitally important program for so many not-profits and community organizations right across Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. So for those of you who don't know about it, this is a federal funding program that provides funds to a variety of organizations that provide a variety of services in our community, and it provides money that organization otherwise wouldn't have to help hire someone. So you're getting two benefits. You're first of all doing capacity building for the organization in question, but you're also allowing the person who's being hired to gain that valuable work experience. And I think that's a fantastic example of a program that really actually provides a lot of benefits. In terms of advocacy, I've always been looking out for organizations and how they can apply for that, and I'd like to see the program expanded so that even more people can take advantage of it.
Thank you. To Blair Herbert, please.
Sure. Thanks for the question. There's lots of the array of nonprofit organizations in pretty much every community across the country is growing and growing, and they provide a very good service and support for members in the community that are having difficulty managing. In our area here, the food bank is a huge one that does great work. It is very much supported by the community, and I think the government needs to do whatever it can do really to support those organizations along with the efforts of the local community to support those organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to ask the same question over to the Green Party's Kathleen Code, please.
Thank you for that. As a person who has been deeply involved in the nonprofit community, I can attest to the difficulty of gaining grants every year and finding people to write up those grants. That in itself is a full-time business, and writing grants every single year to support your business is an onerous task. For decades, though, governments of all levels have downloaded services onto the nonprofit community, so that now we're trying to handle things that the government should be handling for little or no money, and I think that has to change. I think the whole nonprofit sector has to be rethought, and the money has to be more forthcoming, and so that we can hire the people who have the skills and who have the abilities and the desire to help out their communities, because right now a lot of nonprofits are just teetering with the loss of volunteers and with the loss of funds over the years.
Thank you very much. We'll stay with Kathleen Code for the next question, which is housing affordability and federal leadership. The affordability of housing in Canada is being hotly debated by candidates. How can you, as an MP and the federal government, help Canadians buy homes and pay their skyrocketing rents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an incredibly important conversation right now. The Green Party's initiative is the Federal Strategic Reserve, whereupon we would buy up the natural resources that are produced across this country that are threatened by tariffs, such as aluminum, steel, and lumber, and those would be government assets, and we would use them then to build public housing by the thousands across the country, making sure that housing is suitable for the community, that it's intergenerational housing, that it's ecologically and soundly built, so that it's well maintained. It's important that we do generational housing so that seniors don't get locked up in warehouses, and that we do community housing that embraces people from every walk of life. But it would be 30% of a person's annual or
Thank
annual
you. I'm
income.
going to have to cut you off there. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll now move the same question over to Blair Herbert, please.
Just waiting for my timer to start. This riding actually has we got caught up in this during COVID. That prior to COVID, our average price in this riding was about $450,000, and now our average price is about $800,000. And that has caused all sorts of issues with rentals and people buying homes and that sort of stuff. Most of the people in average jobs in this community can't afford to live here. Nurses, police officers, even people certainly that work in the retail sector and that sort of thing. It is very difficult. Our Liberal leader, Mark Carney, announced that a new Liberal government would build more homes in Canada in the next year than we have since World War II. Our housing plan is to get another 250,000 homes built in the next while. Thanks.
I'll now move this over to Alistair MacGregor for the same question, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I mean, I think it's quite obvious to people who are living through this reality that what is happening right now is just simply not working through government policy. So I think one of the big problems that we've seen is that housing is turned into a financial vehicle in too many ways. It's seen as a vehicle for investment and to make greater returns rather than its primary purpose, which is to have a safe roof over one's head. So one of the things that I would like to fight for as your MP is a variety of ways. I would like to stop predatory corporations from coming in and buying up huge stock of affordable housing. We need to make sure that there are rental protections in place. But we also, and I think this is going to really benefit our softwood lumber industry, is that we have to have this Build Canadian, Buy Canadian plan in place where we are actually building those houses which are dedicated affordable housing units to meet people where they're at and to make sure that they're not going to be homeless.
Thank you. We'll stay with Alistair MacGregor for the next question. Balancing tax cuts with service funding. With tax cuts being proposed during this election campaign, how would you ensure that vital public services and infrastructure projects continue to receive adequate funding?
Tax fairness is a huge issue for so many people, and I think that for many folks are unfairly bearing the burden of taxation right now. That can include many individuals and small businesses. On the other side, Canada loses billions of dollars of revenue from wealthy individuals and wealthy corporations who are able to use their resources to find loopholes in the tax code, use offshore tax havens to protect their wealth. And that means that more of the burden is falling on members of our community. Services are incredibly important, and the way I see services, publicly funded services, is by lifting people up, setting them on a path to success so that they can eventually become fully contributing members of our society. Our communities are stronger when we look after one another, and that has always been a main focus of mine as your member of parliament. And I think when it comes to the issue of taxation, it's going to be centered on fairness and making sure we lift our community members up.
Thank you very much. I'll now move the same question over to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thanks for that question. The tax cuts during an election campaign seem to be thrown around all over the place, and lots of them don't seem to make any sense. What is the government going to do for revenue? We proposed a middle class tax cut that comes in at around about $800, I think, for a couple, and it was really designed to give some benefit to those people that were losing the tax credit for carbon tax across the country with the removal of the carbon tax, and a lot of those people were dependent on that on those dollars to in their budget, and that's why that tax cut was brought in. And it's revenue. The government still needs revenue. We can't just operate off of borrowed money unless we are building infrastructure with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now move the same question over to Kathleen Cohn of the Green Party.
Thank you for that question. Obviously, the Green Party is in favor of promoting services for citizens at the expense then of corporate subsidies. We would automatically cancel corporate subsidies, which amounts to billions of dollars a year. We have been working with the Parliamentary Budget Office to determine some of the benefits then to some of our initiatives. So I'll just go through a couple of them right now. Eliminating corporate meals and entertainment expenses deduction would render $4.8 billion a year. Implementing an annual wealth tax, which unless you're making $50 million a year, you don't need to worry about that, but that would bring us $121 billion a year. Increasing the corporate income tax rate would bring in $42 billion a year. Eliminating resource deductions for oil and gas sector, that would bring in $14 billion a year. So we have the money. We have the money to provide citizens with services and tax cuts.
Thank you very much. We'll stay with Kathleen Cohn for the next question. This is about the island rail infrastructure. What are your thoughts on restoring and funding the Vancouver Island Rail Corridor as an environmentally friendly transportation alternative that supports commuters, tourism, and cargo?
Yeah, this would be a personal reflection of mine because the Green Party doesn't have an official stance on this. But I myself would be delighted to see the railway restored. I think we have it in place. Once we lose it, it's gone forever. But I think that if we spend the money now and we have a source of transportation that is available for public and for freight, for moving goods along up and down the island, I think that's a brilliant idea. It reduces some of the wear and tear on the highway, and it just makes a lot of sense to keep it to upgrade the structure, which of course would cost a lot of money. But I think in the long term, I think it's something that we should consider doing. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Same question over to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think we've been working on this for probably about 15 years, I think. And the longer it takes, the more chance there is that it will never happen. Part of the problem that I see in the whole thing is that we have a lot of different political leaders on the island that are involved with this, and it's for a lot of them it is an all or nothing kind of attitude. I think the number of those people that are involved want the whole let's go from Victoria all the way up to Campbell River, and if we can't get that in place, then we're not going to approve anything. I think if the last 15 years, if we would have taken a different tact, we could have seen, getting the rail from downtown Victoria out to WestShore, and then, then we could build on to Cowichan, and then we could build on to Nanaimo, and so we would have been done by now. And instead, we're still talking about it. So we have to have an attitude change there if this is ever going to happen.
Thank you very much, Blair Herbert. Let's move the same question over to Alistair MacGregor, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. For folks who live in Cowichan, Malahat, Langford, we know that this issue has required a lot of patience over the years. And, I echo previous comments. We don't seem to be getting anywhere very quickly. There's a number of very complicating factors in play. I've worked with the Island Corridor Foundation over a number of years. My main role as the Member of Parliament is to make sure that the federal government is taking care of its responsibility for consultation with First Nations who have their traditional territories along the track, but also making sure that if the provincial government with its primary responsibility over transportation makes that decision, that the federal government will be there to fully fund it. The complicating factor comes with the fact that a lot of First Nations are running out of patience because this corridor goes right through their territories and nothing seems to be done. But I think one of the smart ways of approaching it with the rapid population growth in the South Island would be to look at Victoria and the West Shore communities as a starter pack and then moving up to the Cowichan Valley to see if we can get something done there.
Thank you very much. So for the next question, we will stay with NDP's Alistair MacGregor. Let's move the conversation to housing with questions from our partner, the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. Federal leadership is essential to solving the housing and homelessness crisis in Canada. Would your government take a collaborative approach, encouraging actions on the provincial, territorial, and municipal levels to work together to address this crisis?
In a short answer, yes. I think to effectively solve the housing crisis, we do need collaboration. It's not going to be a silver bullet that fixes this problem, more like silver buckshot. We need solutions from all levels of government. And we also know that, housing needs are incredibly diverse. If you look at the housing continuum, we have everyone from people who are very housing insecure to homeless, to people who are struggling to paying their rents, to folks who are looking to buy their first home, to other people who are maybe struggling with affording the property tax increases. They're land rich but cash poor. So we have to have a variety of scenarios and policies that meet people where they're at. But number one is you do need to see that federal leadership, and you need to see a strong commitment from a federal government that's going to finally step up to the plate, protect renters, prevent affordable housing stock from being bought up by corporations, and making sure that we have that Build Canadian, Buy Canadian plan for actually building the housing.
Thank you. Move the same question to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We certainly have a supply issue on Vancouver Island for homes, and elsewhere in BC, like the lower mainland, I'm thinking. But and we have to do something, and the Liberal government is proposing what they would do is start building homes, mostly in the affordable category, that would be rentals. And they're trying to speed up the process. For developers right now, it's lots of times it takes 4 or 5 years to get properties rezoned and get it into the building queue. And when the federal government owns the property or buys the property, they can push that an awful lot quicker, and we can get some affordable housing built in the area. But this is a big initiative that we haven't been able to do since last time we did it was just at the end of World War II, and so we're going to start on that once we get back to work.
Okay, we'll move the same question to Kathleen of the Green Party, please.
Yeah, I think the federal government needs to show strong leadership in the housing initiative, and certainly the Green Party has already done that through the platforms that we've just released. We obviously need a strong collaborative approach with both the provincial government and the local levels of government as well, in determining what type of housing they need, what best suits them. And also with the Indigenous peoples, they are certainly in need of quality housing as well. So there's a lot of consultation that has to happen, and somebody has to be the people who are going to show the strong leadership, and that's the Greens, because that's part of our foundation, is being collaborative and working with people. Regardless of where the idea comes from, we are always willing to share our ideas and initiatives to make sure that the work gets done. But we would be willing to certainly supply the funding provided to local levels.
Thank you.
As long as
You're
they
at
use-
time, please.
yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll stay with Kathleen Code for the next question. Canada needs faster, less expensive, and better homes. How would your government consider investing in programs to improve home building technologies and practices?
Yeah, we are fortunate enough that we already have the technology that exists in terms of mass building of homes. We don't really necessarily want to follow the cookie cutter structure, but once we get a suitable home design, there are ways of building them en masse, and also so that they're ecologically sound and equipped with renewable energy resources. So we can put together an effective package, a housing package then, so that these homes for people can be built across the country appropriately and culturally appropriately as well, through the construction techniques that are already available across the country.
Thank you very much. I'll move the same question to Liberal Party's Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. What we are proposing in our housing affordability plan is a huge opportunity for people getting into apprenticeship programs, because we need to first get the workers that we need in order to be able to make this happen. And this is normally a provincial responsibility, but the federal government is going to get into the apprenticeship business, I guess, for lack of a better term, and giving incentives to local businesses to hire people and put them into the apprenticeship stream, so that at some point we get the number of qualified people working in the business. I think the number is somewhere around 20% or 25% of the construction trade workers are looking at retirement within the next 5 years, and we certainly have to replace those. And it'll be a huge opportunity for younger people getting into the construction trades. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now move it over to Alistair MacGregor of the NDP.
Thank you for the question. You know, last summer I took a tour of a fantastic local business that we've got just up in Chemainus, R. Anderson and Sons, which do prefabricated home building. And I took a tour of their whole plant along with some of the supervisors. And it is amazing to see the technology leaps and bounds that are happening right here in our own community of Chemainus, here in Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. So that business is prefabricating walls and floors, and they just load up the trucks, and then you can put a house together pretty much like building a Lego set. And it's that kind of technology which is really going to drive rapid home construction, but it's also going to lower the construction costs, and it's going to be a huge boost to our local economy, because a business like R. Anderson and Sons, if they expand, if they get those incentives from the federal government to do this ambitious home building, that's going to be beneficial for our local economy. It's going to get the homes built, but it's going to provide a lot of stable income and employment for our community members.
Thank you very much. We'll stay with Alistair MacGregor for the next question. Will your government consider reforming taxes to facilitate home building? For example, eliminating GST on all housing?
In a short word, yes, we will consider how we can best tailor the tax code to facilitate building of new homes. I believe that's a commitment that we have made for new home buyers and on new construction. That would significantly reduce the costs for new home buyers. But yes, I mean, I think it's incumbent upon all parties and all people who are hoping to be the member of parliament of this area to evolve their thinking according to what circumstances dictate. And I think one of the things that's going to underline my service as your MP is the willingness to listen from all members of our community, whether it's our local chambers of commerce, home builders, local industries, our softwood lumber industry, on what the best policies are going forward. I think that's the demonstrated track record I have as an MP, is being open and accessible, listening to people's concerns, and making sure that those concerns, those wants, and those needs are actually executed in my work in Ottawa.
Thank you very much. I'll move the same question over to Blair Herbert.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We have, as part of our policy, to remove the GST on homes up to $1 million, so that will help. But what we need, again, I think in our area and as well as across the country is looking at the people that can't afford those homes, right? And we look at the retail workers, nurses, teachers, some really decent occupations, but they can't afford $850,000 homes. So what we're also looking at is building affordable homes that would be purchased or rented at a level of 30% of your income, so that there is the availability for those people to have a solid home in our area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll move the same question to Green Party's Kathleen Code.
Public market housing is still out of reach of most people. They simply don't have the down payment, regardless of their ability to pay the GST. So a rebate isn't really going to help anybody there. What the Green Party is envisioning is public housing then to be available to people at 30% of their regular income. That way they don't have to pay down payment, and they will have immediate access to housing. This would be covenanted housing that would not be available to the public market, and thus out of the grasp of predatory investors. And it would come with a program of full maintenance, so that these buildings can be maintained and kept in good repair well after they're available for rent or retail. So we would. Oh, that's the end.
Sorry. Thank you very much for that. We'll stay with Kathleen Code for the next part. We will now talk about a different topic in arts and culture sector. Arts and culture organizations continue to recover from the impacts of COVID and are struggling with stagnant or shrinking municipal, provincial, and federal funding. What will your party do to support these sectors and the thousands of Canadians employed within them? Kathleen Code, please.
Thank you. That's a great question. Arts and culture often gets lost in the mix of all the other basic necessities that we need. But as humans, arts and culture are really integral to our spirit and the very essence of who we are. I fully support providing more funding. I know how difficult it is for nonprofits to get either federal or provincial money, or even get money from donors. Sometimes we have to depend on philanthropic folks who are simply interested in the project itself, and that's still a bit of a game then to whether you can actually get funding for your project or not. But this is really critical, I think, to ensure that we have arts and culture and find ways to include the artists and the tremendous talent that we have, especially within this valley. It's just amazing, and I would like to see that developed.
Thank you very much. I'll move the same question to Blair Herbert of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, thank you for that question. In Cowichan here, certainly we have a thriving arts and culture community, and there is, and I think what needs to happen, because this is an issue as well in Langford. They have a huge huge arts and culture community there as well, but they have nowhere to practice their craft, or like there's no concert halls, there's no art galleries and that sort of thing in Langford. And I think what it needs is a sort of a groundswell from the community to sort of rise up and say this is a facility that we need, and then start knocking on doors of different levels of government to see how they could put it together. We're looking at a new art gallery here in Duncan. That's where the stage that it's at right now, raising awareness and raising money in order to make that happen. And I'm sure that the federal government would have input into funding on that model.
Thank you. Same question to Alistair MacGregor, please.
I think the importance of arts and culture in our community are underlined by the very fact that at the Black Tie Awards, the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce had a specific category for arts and culture. And allow me to offer my congratulations to the Chemainus Theatre for winning that award. But it just goes to show you that among the business community, among all residents of this beautiful riding of ours, arts and culture are tremendously important. And I think if you look at the macroeconomic data, for every dollar of investment that's made into arts and culture, you get a significant return on that, because that kind of investment is what draws visitors to our community. If you have a reputation of being a hotbed for arts and culture, people want to visit your area. They want to stay, they want to shop, they want to dine. And I think the Cowichan Valley has a real opportunity to put itself on the map with further investments. The Cowichan Public Art Gallery, another fantastic idea. It's right where my constituency office is, and I've been very interested in helping with that as well.
Yes, sorry, okay. Okay, staying with Alistair MacGregor, our next section is going to be about public safety and security. Addressing urban disorder and addiction. This is a Canada-wide issue, and we are all impacted by it. What are your own ideas on how to improve it?
Wonderful question. I know many in our communities, this is a daily occurrence and a daily reality for them to face. I think what we need to do in terms of the obvious mental health crisis that we see on our streets is we need the federal government to finally declare a national public health emergency. And we also need to see mental health care funding finally being brought up to par with physical health care. We have a variety of tools that we can do using the Canada Health Act. But I also think that that declaration of a public health emergency from the federal government is going to allow the resources we need. And when it comes to public safety, I've spoken with local RCMP from our North Cowichan detachment, and one of the things I would like to propose as your MP is fighting to make sure that we have dedicated mental health support teams that are accompanying RCMP officers when they're on patrol. Making sure that we have, in addition to harm reduction services, we also have significant investments in treatment and recovery.
Thank you very much. I'll move the same question to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thanks for that question. We have a huge issue in Cowichan, basically in the Duncan area, with homeless people and so on, which is partly caused by addiction, and I think that's what we have to sort of concentrate on. And I think right now we don't have enough treatment facilities in order for these people to get off of their addiction. I think it's a fool's game to try to get somebody that is addicted off if they're not ready to make a change in their life. But right now, if we have somebody in that situation that decides that they want to change their life, we don't have anywhere to send them. It's not going to work very well. And if today in April, they come to you and they say, okay, I'm ready to go. I want to get off this addiction. To say to them, well, we've got a spot for you in December. We have to be able to get a spot for them tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Same question to Green Party's Kathleen Code.
Yeah, certainly substance addiction is a big problem across Canada. I did a bit of research, and 20% of Canadians are addicted to something, whether it's tobacco, drugs, or alcohol. 13% of those are the ones who are addicted to opioid and other drugs. So it's a huge problem, and what you're seeing on the street is really the tip of the iceberg, because there's a lot of people in the urban centers who are not represented by what you see on the streets. So what the Green Party is proposing is that we provide care with compassion and kindness. These are our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, and we can't arrest our way out of this problem. We need to offer wraparound services, including housing, access to safer supply, so that they don't have to access toxic illegal drugs, and consumption sites. So we have to do this with kindness and compassion, and with a fullness of services that are immediate and available.
Thank you very much. Staying with Kathleen Code, we're going to move to tariffs and threats to Canada. Trade barriers and market access for Canadian producers. In light of tariff threats from the U.S. and growing trade uncertainty, what steps would you take to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers and support national distribution for small Canadian producers?
The Green Party has developed this Protecting Canada document. It's available online at Green Party of Canada, Protecting Canada. So have a look at this. Is a 9-page document about how we would address the current tariffs and threats of American annexation. In terms of market access, sorry, I've lost the question. Interprovincial trade. There are too many regulations, and we've discovered this now, much to our dismay. So I mean, we should be glad that we are now acting to improve interprovincial trade across the country. It should have been done a long time ago, but as part of the Team Canada approach, I'm really glad to see the provinces and the federal government acting together then in collaboration. And
thank you. Yeah. Move the same question to Liberal Party's Blair Herbert.
Yes, thank you for that question. This has been a problem for years, actually, that the federal government has been trying to address, and it's really because of the Trump tariffs coming along that we've had to sort of wake up and say, okay, this problem has to be solved now. Prime Minister Carney was, sworn in as Prime Minister, and then 9 days later he dropped the writ for the election. But during that 9 days, he did quite a bit of stuff. And one of the things that he did was get together with all the premiers and talk about interprovincial trade. And there was a commitment made at that meeting that they were going to do is remove interprovincial trade barriers by the 1st of July of this year. So they've put that out there as a goal, and they're working on it. Problem is, like, some of these things are very traditional. They've been in place for such a long time that nobody can figure out how exactly it's going to go. But
thank you. You're at time.
Thank you.
I'll move that over to Alistair MacGregor, please.
Thank you. I think, I share the sense of betrayal that many of our community members feel right now when this economic warfare was launched on us by the President of the United States. What we thought was our closest friend and ally, and for them to do this to our country, it has been a rude wake-up. But again, underneath that anxiety, there is a real resolve to find ways that we can support one another. And that at the top of that list is Canadian workers, industries, and small businesses. So in terms of interprovincial trade barriers, I agree. It's been a subject that's been discussed for many years. I've heard it repeatedly in the House of Commons over several parliaments now. But I think now we have the moment in time when this conversation needs to happen. The other important service that the federal government can provide to small businesses is in finding those new markets, not only in building resilient local economies, because I think a lot of Canadians want to support their fellow community members, but in our overseas offices, helping establish trade missions there and helping businesses navigate the rules there.
Thank you. Staying with Alistair MacGregor, protecting Canada's sovereignty and trade interests. How do you intend to stand up for Canadian values, resources, and unity in the face of escalating trade pressures from the United States?
Well, I think, the United States is bigger than just one person. And by virtue of the close relationship that we've had with the United States built over a century and more, we know that as Canadians, we have close relationships. Sometimes it's family ties, but when it comes to government, over the years, we have close relationships with many governors of U.S. states. We know key members of the House of Representatives and the Senate. And I think what we have to get the message across to is particularly to those Republican members that, don't underestimate Canada. Don't mistake our politeness for meekness. When the going gets tough, we will stand up for ourselves. We will uphold our values, and we will apply equal pressure to make the pain felt on both sides. So I think a lot of those actions have been undertaken already, but it's by making the Americans understand that we are going to stand up for ourselves.
Thank you. I'll move the same question to Blair Herbert, please.
Question. There's quite a bit that we can do. Although Donald Trump would suggest that he doesn't need our lumber, he doesn't need our electricity, doesn't need our oil, doesn't need anything. That just is not the case, right? When you look at lumber as an example, the Americans do not produce enough lumber for their own domestic market, so they are going to be required to import lumber at a significantly increased price because of Donald Trump's 34% or 35% tariff. But there's things that we can do in this country to sort of offset the tariffs, and that is try to build our way out of this issue. That will help the lumber industry by building an extra 250,000 homes a year for the next few years, and that will help. That is putting on retaliatory tariffs, which we have done.
Thank you. You're at time. We'll now move it over to the Green Party's Kathleen Code, please.
Thank you. Yeah, this is of critical importance to the Green Party. What we're interested in then is developing those international partnerships throughout the world, sort of an economic NATO, even to the point of offering safe haven to the UN headquarters if need be. I talked previously about the Federal Strategic Reserve, where we as government would buy up aluminum, steel, and lumber and direct those resources then to our public home building strategy. It's about time that we use those resources for Canadian citizens. If the Americans don't want them, we can certainly use them. We're also talking about implementing 120,000 strong civilian federal home guard that would be employed then in good paying jobs for infrastructure needs, natural disasters, and foreign threats, so that we can protect our border and ourselves.
Thank you. You're at time.
Thank you.
Okay. Staying with Kathleen Code, we'll now go with cross-border policy and protection. What are your plans for maintaining peaceful and cooperative relations with the United States, especially when it comes to cross-border travel?
Well, I think Canadians have solved a lot of that issue themselves by just not going there. I think it's obviously too dangerous in terms of traveling there right now. If they're going to unlock your iPhone and look at who you've been communicating with and how you've been communicating, and then you can disappear into the ice underworld, never to be seen again. So people aren't just going to go there. I mean, and that's just common sense, right? So, and I would hope that the Canadian government would issue a travel advisory about this. But again, just mentioned the civilian federal home guard that would be employed then to protect our border. And as far as diplomatic relations, I mean, we have to keep the conversation open between us and the Trump administration, and we have to keep doing those diplomatic ties.
Thank you very much. Same question to Blair Herbert of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The Canadian people have sort of made a decision that they're not going to the States, and a number of people that I know are even canceling holidays and everything. We always like to go south every once in a while, but we're lucky enough that we'll fly over top of the States and we won't have to land there. What we should encourage, though, is northern traffic coming from the American side, coming to support our tourism industries here. And I think that because the issues with crossing the border are all on the American side. We still welcome people to this country as we should, and there is security, there is all the rest of that sort of stuff. But it's not as over the top as it is going into the States. It's quite dangerous, especially for people from the LGBTQ community.
Thank you very much. You're at time. Border. Sorry. I'll now move this over to NDP's Alistair MacGregor, please.
So what we're doing is working, and I know it's working because California Governor Gavin Newsom is now making a commercial directly appealing to Canadians to still come to the Golden State. So what we're doing is working. We need to keep those elbows up because I think this is one of the ways that we can apply pressure to the United States. And, in terms of cross-border travel, I would agree. Americans, you're still welcome to come up here. We're a very welcoming country. We've got some beautiful places that you can visit. I recommend the Cowichan Valley and the city of Langford. Go out to Port Renfrew, maybe try a fishing charter. They would love to see your business, and they will show you an amazing time and an amazing landscape. But again, for many Canadians who still may have to travel to the United States for work or other purposes, a lot of their employers are now warning them that you have to take certain precautions because it is no longer the safe country that we once thought it was, and that's a real consequence. But again, this is all stemming from the actions of one man.
Thank you. You're at time. We'll stay with Alistair MacGregor for our next question. Moving to a new topic, democracy and governance. Electoral reform and representation. If you're elected, what would you tell your party it has to do to address electoral reform and strengthen trust in our democratic institutions?
Thanks. Let's start with a criticism of our first past the post system. I think under first past the post, political parties have gotten lazy. We know the Conservatives don't need to campaign in the prairies because they have a lock on those provinces. We know that Liberals don't need to campaign in downtown Toronto because they have a lock on those areas. It forces political parties to be lazy because they have power blocks, and it produces a very distorted political map of Canada, which is not at all indicative of how people actually voted. I would like to see some sort of proportional system. There are certain safeguards that you could put in place to make sure that extremist parties aren't elected. But we need to have a conversation on what that system is going to look like. And so what I would like to propose is that we set up a National Citizens Assembly. We put the resources into having those conversations. And I would also like to see Canadians afforded a test drive of the system before we then have a referendum on what to keep.
Thank you. Same question to Blair Herbert of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Actually, I'm kind of surprised that it's coming around. We've had this question at the last two All Candidates meetings. We just had a referendum on this in BC 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, and it was turned down. I personally don't believe in the proportional representation. There are too many issues with it. It gives, I think, too much power to the leaders of the parties to appoint people as opposed to electing people. I look at the New Zealand example that we used, where in their election 3 or 4 years ago, the Conservatives actually won in a first past the post system. The Labour Party then joined up with an extreme party on the right, gave them a bunch of goodies, and then were able to use their 10 seats where they didn't elect anybody, and form government.
Thank you. You're at time. Same question to the Green Party's Kathleen Code.
The Green Party agrees that proportional representation is the way to go. There are different models of proportional representation, so we'd have to examine which one of those would work. I think there are some around the world that have been successful. I think the biggest issue right now in terms of government is trust. People don't trust government, any level of government right now, and I think that's a real shame because this is how we are governed and how we live our lives. right now, within the Cowichan Valley, within this riding, there's been a lot of fear-mongering that's been due to the Conservatives, and it's kind of sucked the oxygen out of the room in terms of how people are deciding to vote this time around. They're voting out of fear rather than their values, and I think that's a direct attack on democracy. We also need to do something about the smear campaigns and attack ads that accompany campaigns like this that should not be allowed just because there is an election.
Thank you very much. Staying with Kathleen Code of the Green Party, we're going to move to immigration. Colleges like VIU and Cowichan welcome international students, but recent federal caps have created uncertainty for both institutions and students. How would your party support international students while keeping immigration levels sustainable?
Yeah, I think it's a shame that international students have been capped. Obviously, this is a source of revenue to our academic institutions, and also an opportunity then for those students and our students then to experience an intercultural exchange. Thing is that we do value immigrants, and we do value the diversity and culture that they bring to us. And I think that we need to ensure that we still have enough room once we get housing built. I think housing is the key. There's no point in inviting international students here if there's no place for them to live. That's, I know, has been a real hardship, and some of them have had to return to their countries because they simply couldn't find a place to live. So we need to sort of look at this in a more holistic manner and see how we can make it work for everyone.
Thank you. I'll move the same question to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The immigration is very important in this country. We do have to increase the number of people coming into the country because we don't have a birth rate that allows us to maintain a population without immigration. Part of the problem is, we need to make sure that we have the housing available for people coming into the country, as well as the social services and everything else that needs to support their settlement in this country. And so we've got to get that fixed. So what the federal government did here recently is sort of lower the number of immigrants that we're in a position to take until we get the infrastructure up to where it needs to be able to support them when they get here. As far as foreign students, that has hit us hard in the universities and so on. So we have to do something there.
Same question. Alistair MacGregor, please.
Well, I think it's quite apparent that immigration policy is a bit of a mess right now, and I know this firsthand because, in my constituency office, up to 90% of our casework is now dealing with immigration. And even during this election period, I just checked in the office the other day, we are still going full bore on immigration casework. I think the problem is that, we haven't really identified the needs of our country appropriately. Like, on one hand, we have many sectors of our economy which do need workers to come in because the local populations aren't supplying enough. But it's obvious that in other areas, like in students, we have not provided the adequate infrastructure to meet international students' needs. They're struggling to find housing, they're struggling with a whole host of other things. But it is unfortunate because in many communities, that revenue from international students is sorely needed, but they are also needed in terms of the available employment opportunities that exist.
Thank you. Tying healthcare in with immigration, Canada faces a critical shortage of family doctors and healthcare workers. With many U.S. professionals now looking north, how would your party speed up immigration licensing and help strengthen our healthcare system? Alistair MacGregor, please.
I think there's a real opportunity, especially with the United States. I think a lot of professionals down there, whether it's professors or medical staff, are looking at the state of their government and don't want to have any part of Trump's policies anymore. It's becoming an unsafe place. And even if you have differing views of the president, that's now putting a mark on your name. So we should be welcoming those folks up here. And I think there's a real opportunity for the federal government to work with the provinces on timely recognition verification of foreign credentials, but also putting a plan in place so that the primary care needs of so many of our rural and remote communities are at the top of the list. In addition to immigration, one of the things that we've proposed is for students coming out of medical school, we propose forgiving their debt if they dedicate some years of service to rural and remote communities. So that's a way of us investing in two different areas, and I think that's a way that the federal government can have a real impact.
Thank you. Same question to Liberal Party's Blair Herbert.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The American situation with doctors is a real opportunity, I think, for people to come north across the border and get away from all the craziness that is happening down in the States. But I also think, over here we have to start figuring out a different system for attracting doctors into small areas, remote areas. Right now, you can make deals with doctors to do it for a couple of years, but after that couple of years is gone, we're back into searching for other doctors. I think we have to look at a program of growing our own. So if we have, a young person in Chemainus, let's say, that is wants to go into medicine, that we would sponsor that person to go into medicine, and in exchange to get them back home. They would likely stay here because their family is here. This is what they accept as normal.
Thank you. That's your time, please. Same question over to Green Party's Kathleen Cote.
I agree that this is an opportune time for Canada to recruit some of the top talent from the U.S., and especially medical practitioners in every profession. So we should be looking at that very carefully and encouraging them and to come out to rural and remote communities. I once worked with, when I was an economic development policy analyst with the provincial government, I worked with several communities to learn how they were diversifying their communities and how they were attracting medical professionals. And I know one of them was working very hard to sort of bribe doctors to come to their area in terms of advertising their community as the perfect lifestyle balance, where they could go skiing in the afternoon and and do their practice in the morning, etc. And they were enticing them with childcare, with a free car, with housing. So those are the types of things that were needed then to bring professionals into their communities.
Thank you. Staying with the Green Party's Kathleen Cote, we're now going to discuss the riding, strengths and challenges that are in the specific area. So for riding strengths, tell us the top 3 unique opportunities in your riding that you want to champion if your party is elected to help leverage these strengths.
Okay, number 1 would be the community itself here. The community is incredibly kind and compassionate and willing to help out. If somebody's online and needs a few bucks to get through to the next month, people are incredibly forthcoming then and helping that individual out, and I really appreciate the community that we have here. Second is the environment. We have an amazing environment here in the rural areas, and property owners are eager to keep that intact. Which of course makes it difficult to build housing if nobody wants that in their backyard. Another one, the third one would be, just the culture that we have here in terms of arts and people who are extremely talented in terms of arts and culture.
Thank you. You're at time. I'd like to move it over to the Liberal Party's Blair Herbert. Same question, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's an awful big question to answer, to give a 1-minute answer to. So I'm going to pare it down a little bit. I'll give you one idea that I have, and that's has to do with the environment. We go back in different elections in the last few years. The environment has been a large thing in our riding, where everybody is concerned about it. Everybody, I think, wants to make some progress on the environmental file, and I think we could be a case study actually in the country for environmental initiatives. And I would like to see that. I like to look at the climate change situation. I get that it's a problem, but it's also an opportunity. We could develop different technologies here that we could export to the rest of the world, and just full on side with climate change initiatives in this riding.
Thank you. Same question over to Alistair MacGregor of the NDP.
Yeah, what a challenge identifying only three. If I had to boil it down to three, I would start with this riding's Indigenous communities. They have great ambition to really seize economic opportunities to build their communities. I know in my conversations, with communities like the Pachidat out on the west coast, Penelakut, Cowichan tribes, they are full of ambition to really take the reins, and I think there are some great opportunities for community partnership there. Of course, our natural environment. You can't think of this riding without thinking of the beautiful settings that it exists in. Port Renfrew calls itself the tall tree capital of the world. We have beautiful hiking trails throughout the Cowichan Valley, and Langford is right on the cusp of many beautiful areas as well. And I would end with agriculture and food. We have a long and storied history of agriculture here in the Cowichan Valley. Many of our farms have recognized amazing economic opportunities through that. There's huge potential for agritourism, and I think a lot of folks really want to visit this area because of that fact.
Thank you very much. Staying with Alistair MacGregor, this is the other side of the question, riding challenges. Tell us the top 3 unique challenges in this riding that you want to bring attention to help get more resources and supports.
I think I would start, first of all, with public safety and mental health. That is an extreme challenge for many members of our community, and it's quite obvious that we need some dedicated federal resources to tackle that problem. It's not only affecting the people who are living through those crises. We have to remember that these are people's brothers, sisters, moms, and dads. They are human beings, and they need our compassion, and they need our help. But there is a significant public safety concern that comes with that, and we need someone who's going to address that more fully. The other challenge I would identify is with healthcare. Too many members of our community don't have access to reliable primary healthcare, and we need a federal government that is going to use the powers of the Canada Health Act to stand up and address that challenge. And thirdly, the big challenge would also be the environment. We are prone to droughts and warm weather events, and we need to address that if we're going to go forward.
Thank you very much. Same question about challenges to Blair Herbert, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I see one of the challenges that we have in our riding actually is housing. Because getting back to the people that live here, that support the community, that support the seniors and that sort of thing in our community, when they can't afford to live here, that is a problem. And I think that our housing initiative should help address that problem. But and one other issue, and it's tied in with housing, is water. The availability of drinking water for communities. You would think that we would have lots, and here I know there's a big development being looked at down in Mill Bay, but Mill Bay's water system can't handle it, and we can't have any more people coming out of that aquifer. So we have to figure out other ways to supply drinking water to the communities.
Thank you. Over to Kathleen Code of the Green Party.
Yeah, I would say number one is the opioid crisis and the work that we need to address that, not only for the people on the street, but the people who live amongst us. Number two would be housing. How many of us are living with our adult children at home because there is no place for them to live? I think that's a real serious issue when they are trying to establish their lives and their families and they have nowhere to do that. Number three, then, I think, is affordability and the lack of disposable income. We've seen our disposable income eaten away by property and personal income taxes, by house insurance, by all these fixed costs that just keep increasing every year, and government just seems to feel that especially homeowners are cash cows and they can just help themselves due to the value of their homes, and so it's less disposable income to spend within the community and the small and medium-sized businesses.
Thank you very much. We've reached the end of our submitted questions, and so now I'll invite the candidates to each give a 3-minute wrap-up, please. We're going to start with the draw that we had from the beginning, so we'll begin with Liberal Party's Blair Herbert, we'll move to Kathleen Cote of the Green Party, and then we will finish with Alistair MacGregor of the NDP. So first up, please, Blair Herbert.
Thank you. In closing, I just want to thank the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce and the WestShore Chamber, as well as the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board for hosting this event. And thank you all for tuning in to watch it from home. Today's national polls. Just a second, I need my glasses, I think. Today's national polls show this election to be a race between two parties. Former federal NDP leader Thomas Mulcair summarized it best when he said, "Trump's threat to Canada means this election must be a choice between the Liberals and Conservatives." We are knocking on doors everywhere in this riding and identifying lots of Liberal voters. And you have seen the headlines. There's a shift coming. And we are hearing the old NDP line that if you want a Liberal Prime Minister, you need to vote NDP. That just doesn't make any sense to me. If you want a Liberal Prime Minister, you need to vote Liberal. It's that simple. Further, the NDP leader is making wild accusations such as Mark Carney will cut transfer payments to the provinces by $45 billion in order to give his breaks to billionaires. This just simply not true. Liberal leader Mark Carney has the economic experience, proven track record to build our economy, stand up to Trump, and lead us through these challenging times. He is the most qualified federal leader in my lifetime. And I can tell you, I would think that we all want him on this side of the border dealing with the person on the other side of the border. In stark contrast, the Conservative leader has been a professional politician for 20 plus years with no economic experience. He's a master at slogans and rhymes, and lately Poilievre is now bent on overriding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and ignoring the Supreme Court by using the notwithstanding clause to bring in a draconian crime-fighting legislation. Sounds exactly like the law and order agenda from down south. Folks, whether we like it or not, and some don't, the Charter is in place to protect everyone. Nice people, not so nice people, and everybody in between. And what about individual rights? After what we have seen in the States, I have heard from many here in the LGBTQ plus community that they are afraid that their rights will be trampled in Canada under a Conservative government. The Liberals will protect you from that. The riding needs a voice at the national table, not in the backbenches, which is where we've been represented for far too long. I ask for your vote for our sovereignty, for our economy, for our environment, and for the kind of country we want to live in. Thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you much. Blair Herbert from the Liberal Party. I'll move this to the Green Party's Kathleen Cote, please.
Yes, thank you for that. I too would like to applaud the organizers of this event for your dedication and your desire then to provide us more public exposure, because that's exactly what we need in these times. So thank you for that. But at the same time, here we find ourselves in 2025 still with a lack of affordability, and find ourselves in a position where we have troubles as citizens accessing hospital care, dental care, with dwindling funds, and I think we can lay that on decades of governance from the status quo parties, and I think that that's a fact that we have to recognize, that if we keep voting for the same thing, we're going to get the same thing again and again, and that's the definition of insanity. So even amongst this aura of fear that's been developing, and especially here in the Cowichan Valley due to the Conservatives and the fear that of their close ties with Trump and that administration, people are deciding to vote against something, against the Conservatives, rather than for the values. And I think that's a direct attack on democracy, and we have to do better than that. Things like attack ads and fear mongering should not be allowed simply because it's election time. I think parties have to be responsible for the materials that they put out there to the public. So when we get to the Greens then are the voice of the people. We're the ones who would rid ourselves of the corporate subsidies, of making sure that that money then, the billions of dollars that are spent every year on corporations who are making maximum profits as it is, that money then goes towards services for the citizens of Canada. We've seen how inaccessible things and how expensive things are, and we need to change that, and we need to change that quickly, especially on behalf of our children and their children. We cannot keep going like this generation after generation, because it's all going to come down. We have to proceed with kindness and compassion. We cannot arrest our way out of the situation that we find ourselves in. The Green Party has now delivered its full 2025 election platform. I urge you to have a look at that online. I have the experience, the education, and the dedication to do this job, and I hope that you will give me your vote based on your values, not on your fear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen Coe of the Green Party. We'll move this to Alistair MacGregor of the NDP.
I really appreciate this opportunity to speak directly to you, the voters of this beautiful riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. You know, when you go and check your ballot, whether it's at the advanced polls this weekend or on the final day of April 28th, you are not going to see Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Elizabeth May, or Jagmeet Singh on the ballot. Instead, you're going to see Kathy Code, Blair Herbert, Jeff Kibble, and myself, Alistair MacGregor. That's who you're voting for, is your local representative. And I think it speaks volumes that in the 3 opportunities that have been afforded to us as all candidates meetings, Jeff Kibble of the Conservatives has not even bothered to show up to face potentially awkward questions. The fact is, if you look at the electoral history of this riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford, 2015, 2019, 2021, it has always been a battle between the NDP and the Conservatives, with the Liberals and the Greens trailing a distant 3rd and 4th. That is simply a fact. I think that through my service as your MP, through the last 9.5 years, I have a demonstrated track record of listening to the people of this region, making sure that their issues are given a voice in Ottawa, and that we have had some real and dedicated wins. I don't want our region to be saddled with a backbencher in the Conservative or the Liberal parties. I want our region to have a representative like myself who has been a part of a small but mighty caucus of New Democrats in Ottawa that have achieved some real wins. We are the party that brought in dental care. We are the party that brought in a national pharmacare framework. We're the party that brought in our first ever federal anti-scab legislation, and we forced the Liberals to bring in the Early Child Care and Learning Act. Those have had real and measurable impacts for people in our riding. So when you come to the ballot and you're thinking of making your choice, remember it comes down to your local representative, on who has made that difference in your life, on who has made himself open and accessible, has been a part of this community for 9.5 years, who shows up and makes sure that your voice is got a place in Ottawa. I have considered the job of being your member of parliament to be one of the greatest honors of my life. And like I said in my opening statement, the trust that you placed on my shoulders 3 times previously has always weighed heavily on my shoulders. I ask you to look at my track record, think of who you want as a representative for this beautiful riding of Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. When it comes to April 28th, I ask you to once again place your trust on my shoulders, to vote for Alistair MacGregor, and let's make sure that in the 45th Parliament we chart a new course and make sure we're getting the recognition we need.
Thank you to all the candidates for joining us and for sharing your time and perspectives with our community. We truly appreciate your participation. And thank you to everyone watching. By viewing, you're taking part in the democratic process, and that matters. Engaged citizens help build strong, informed communities. At the Duncan Cowichan Chamber of Commerce, we're proud to support conversations like this, ones that bring people together to talk about the issues that shape our region. We believe in respectful dialogue, community engagement, and supporting the businesses and people who make Cowichan, Malahat, Langford such a dynamic place to work and live. A quick reminder, advance polls are open from April 18th to 21st, and Election Day is Monday, April 28th. Make a plan to vote and encourage your friends and family to do the same. Your voice matters. On behalf of the Chamber, thank you again for being part of this important conversation.